You know that feeling when the phone rings and your first instinct is to let it go to voicemail? When you hear someone knock at the door and instead of answering, you freeze like a deer in headlights, hoping they'll just go away. You're not alone. And no, you're not turning into some kind of grumpy recluse. You're just aging. And with aging comes something most folks never talk about. This subtle creeping desire to be left alone more often. But here's the thing no one tells you. That feeling is completely normal. In fact, it might even be healthy. Let's talk about why. Back in your younger days, social interaction was everywhere. At work, at school, through your kids, on the bus, at the grocery store. People were always around, and you got used to it. Maybe even relied on it. But as you get older, something changes. It's not that you dislike people. You just don't need them in the same way. Not all the time. And that's not selfish, antisocial, or weird. It's psychology. Deep, well-studied, and actually very logical psychology. Reason number 1. Your tolerance for nonsense drops to near zero. When you're young, you put up with almost everything. You tolerate bad friends who constantly take but never give. You sit through endless gossip sessions about people you don't even care about. You smile politely at family drama, even when it drains the life out of you. You nod along when someone monopolizes the conversation, talking about themselves for 2 straight hours without once asking how you're doing. Why do you put up with it? Because in your early years, you believe you have to. You're still trying to find your place. You want to be liked, to be included, to belong. You think patience with nonsense is part of being nice. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You entertain opinions that make no sense. You fake enthusiasm to keep the peace. But as the years pass, something shifts inside you. Decades of carrying other people's noise and drama weigh you down. At some point, your inner voice, the one you've ignored for years, finally says, "Enough." Your patience evaporates. That invisible reservoir you once drew from is now dry. It's not bitterness, and it's not cruelty. It's wisdom born from experience. You realize time is precious, energy is limited, and both should be guarded. Pretending becomes exhausting, and you no longer have the will to play roles that keep other people comfortable while you silently suffer. You stop sitting through conversations that go nowhere. You stop laughing at humor that feels hollow. You stop explaining yourself to those who don't really want to understand you. This shift is not about arrogance. It's about survival. You've learned to recognize emotional noise, and you finally give yourself permission to mute it. What once felt like an obligation now feels like a violation. Protecting your peace becomes more important than maintaining appearances. And that is the beginning of true maturity, the courage to walk away from what doesn't serve you. Reason number 2, your priorities shift. Along with this newfound intolerance for nonsense, your internal compass begins to change. In your younger years, your priorities were often external popularity, approval, a busy social calendar, or being seen as easygoing. But over time, you start asking different, deeper questions. How much energy do I have today, and who deserves it? Who makes me feel lighter when I talk to them? Who leaves me drained, no matter how short the interaction? Who do I truly trust, and who am I only tolerating out of habit? These questions mark the turning point. Life teaches you that the crowd is not the prize pieces. A full calendar is not. Success alignment is. You begin to understand that the loudest room is rarely the wisest one, and that being surrounded by people who don't see you is lonelier than being alone. So you start choosing differently. You no longer chase the thrill of being included everywhere. You no longer confuse attention for connection. You no longer measure your worth by how many people know your name. Instead, you want depth, not noise. You crave meaningful conversations that leave you nourished, not surface-level chatter that leaves you empty. You want people who truly get you, not people who merely tolerate you because it's convenient. And when those right people aren't available, you choose silence. Not the heavy, painful silence of loneliness, but the sacred, freeing silence of self-respect. You'd rather sit with your own thoughts, your own books, your own music, than force a smile in a room where you feel invisible. That's not isolation-net's liberation. That's not rejection-net's wisdom. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing everyone, the right people start appearing. When you stop bending yourself to fit into places where you don't belong, you begin to find the spaces that were meant for you. When you stop silencing your soul to keep company, you start attracting people who want to hear its true voice. This evolution is not just personal, it's spiritual. Jung once said that loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate what matters to you. And that's exactly why, as you grow older, your circle becomes smaller, but more aligned. You would rather have one person who sees your soul than 20 who only see your mask. So when you find yourself saying, "I don't like visitors," or "I'd rather stay home," it's not laziness or coldness. It's the wisdom of years reminding you that your inner world deserves care. It's the voice of your soul, choosing peace over performance. In the end, this isn't about shutting people out. It's about opening the door only to those who deserve entry. It's about treating your time, energy, and soul as sacred. You've spent too long scattering your attention everywhere. Now, finally, you choose carefully. And that choice is not just maturity eats freedom. The third reason is deeply emotional and one that surprises people. It's grief. As you get older, you lose people. Friends move, loved ones pass, relationships fade. Each loss takes a little chunk out of your social world. And for many, that world shrinks without them even realizing it. At first, it feels like something temporary. You tell yourself you'll reach out to new people, rebuild the connections, expand your circle again. But then the years pass, and the spaces left behind remain empty. The phone calls stop, the invitations slow down, and the gatherings grow smaller. It's not because you don't care, it's because grief changes you. And here's the quiet truth. Some folks don't want to rebuild it. It's not depression. It's not giving up. It's just a deep awareness that time is limited. And with that comes a focus on quality over quantity. The heart can only take so much. After loving and losing, you begin to value what remains instead of constantly chasing what could be. The soul says, "I've loved hard, I've lost hard, and now I only have space for what feels truly safe." This shift isn't about closing yourself off. It's about honoring the scars. Each loss leaves a mark, a reminder of how fragile and temporary everything is. And with that realization, you stop scattering your energy. You no longer seek to fill every empty chair with a new face. Instead, you keep close the few who feel like home, the ones who give you comfort without demand, the ones who don't drain you with endless noise. That brings us to reason number 4, social fatigue. Not the kind that a nap can fix, but a deeper psychological weariness. You've spent a lifetime managing personalities, navigating group dynamics, accommodating, mediating, entertaining, and over time, that becomes exhausting. When you're young, you bounce back easily. You can attend a party, meet 10 new people, listen to everyone's stories, and still have energy the next day. But as the years add up, recovery slows. The cost of interaction becomes higher. A 1-hour lunch with someone who talks too much can wipe you out for the whole afternoon. A family gathering with 3 competing conversations at once feels like running a mental marathon. What used to feel like stimulation now feels like overwhelm. And so, you stop saying yes to everything. You choose rest over obligation. You protect your peace like it's sacred because it is. You learn that peace is not just a luxury, it's survival. A quiet afternoon alone is no longer a sign of dullness, but a form of medicine. You no longer feel guilty for declining invitations. You no longer apologize for needing space. You no longer measure your worth by how much you can endure socially. This is not withdrawal. It's wisdom. It's the recognition that your energy is not infinite, and every yes to someone else is a no to your own well-being. Let me tell you something most people won't say out loud. Older people aren't always lonely. In fact, many are deeply content being alone. But society doesn't like that narrative. We're constantly told that connection is the ultimate goal. That the more people you have around you, the happier you'll be. That solitude is something to be pitied, not embraced. But here's the twist. Connection doesn't always mean company. Sometimes connection is knowing who you are without distraction. Sometimes it's enjoying your own thoughts without needing them validated by someone else. Sometimes it's listening to the birds, reading a book, staring at the wall with a cup of tea, and not feeling the need to explain yourself. That's not avoidance. That's evolution. It's the evolution of a soul that has seen enough noise to finally appreciate silence. It's the evolution of a mind that has carried enough burdens to finally rest without guilt. It's the evolution of a heart that has been stretched and broken enough times to finally learn that peace is not negotiable. And this evolution carries with it a quiet confidence. You no longer fear missing out because you know what you've gained: freedom. You no longer chase validation because you've learned self-acceptance. You no longer confuse a crowded room with belonging. In the end, grief and social fatigue are not signs of decline. They are signs of refinement. They carve away the unnecessary, leaving only what truly matters. They push you inward, but not into isolation, into alignment. So yes, as you grow older, your world may look smaller from the outside. Fewer friends, fewer events, fewer commitments. But on the inside, it feels fuller. Fuller with meaning, fuller with calm, fuller with authenticity. Because when you strip away the noise, you realize something powerful. You don't need endless company to feel alive. You need truth. You need safety. You need peace. And that, finally, is enough. There's a fifth reason people avoid others more as they age, and it's a powerful one. Self-awareness. You finally know yourself. And I mean really know yourself. You know what pushes your buttons, what lifts your spirit, what your limits are. And with that knowledge comes a kind of protective instinct. You stop putting yourself in situations that go against your nature. If small talk drains you, you avoid it. If certain people stir up old wounds, you create distance, not to punish them, but to preserve your peace. Self-awareness grows slowly, carved out of mistakes, heartbreaks, victories, and failures. It is earned the hard way through trial and error, through staying too long in rooms you didn't belong, through tolerating people who chipped away at your joy. After decades of this, you stop apologizing for who you are and how you're built. If you're introverted, you stop forcing yourself to play the extrovert just to keep up appearances. If you're sensitive, you stop shaming yourself for feeling deeply. If you need solitude, you stop labeling yourself as antisocial. Instead, you begin to honor your wiring. You give yourself permission to leave when you're tired, to decline invitations without guilt, to carve out time for reflection without feeling selfish. This is not avoidance. It is alignment. Alignment with who you've always been, but perhaps ignored when you were younger and desperate for acceptance. Self-awareness strips away the masks. It says, "This is me, and this is what I need. I will no longer betray myself just to make others comfortable." It's a quiet kind of strength, the kind you earn through experience. Not loud, not flashy, but unshakable. The kind that doesn't need to justify itself. And don't forget, as you age, your time becomes more precious. That's the sixth and final reason for now. Time starts to feel different. When you're 20, an hour feels like nothing. You'll waste it scrolling, sitting in a room with people you don't like, going to events you don't care about, because the clock seems endless. You think you have forever. When you're 70, an hour feels like gold. You know there are fewer of them ahead than behind, and so you hold them with care. You're more mindful of how you spend it, who you give it to, and whether it leaves you feeling better or worse. You realize that every coffee date, every phone call, every visit, it all comes at a cost. Not just of time, but of energy. And so you invest that time more wisely. You think twice before committing. You ask yourself, will this drain me or fill me? Will this add to my peace or steal from it? If the answer isn't clear, you often choose solitude. Not because you dislike people, but because you love yourself enough to be selective. That's what wisdom looks like. Not filling every moment with activity, but cherishing the quiet. Not giving your time away carelessly, but spending it like currency, investing it where the return is peace, joy, or meaning. There's a kind of mental sharpness that comes with age. Not in the sense of memory, but in awareness. You start to see through things faster. The fake smiles, the flattery, the one-sided friendships. You don't need a three-month fallout to realize someone's not right for you. One conversation can tell you everything. And that awareness can be exhausting if you're still trying to play the social game. So instead, you step back. You simplify. You let go of the need to explain yourself. You stop justifying why you left the party early or didn't return that call. You no longer owe people your presence just because you used to. That kind of self-honesty can feel like isolation from the outside, but on the inside, it feels like relief. Another part people don't talk about enough is your changing capacity for emotional labor. You might have been the peacemaker in your family, the go-to friend, the one who always reached out first, kept the connections alive, made the plans. But after decades of being the glue, you begin to ask, who's holding me together? And if the answer is no one, you slowly step out of that role. Not to punish anyone, but to stop betraying your own needs. You trade people-pleasing for peace of mind. And yes, some people might fall away when you stop carrying them. But the ones who stay, they're gold. And let's not forget the body's role in all of this. Physical aging affects your social behavior too. You may tire more easily. Loud environments might be overwhelming. Your joints ache. Your back needs support. And suddenly that 2-hour dinner with 5 people doesn't sound like fun. It sounds like endurance training. That physical strain mixed with mental fatigue makes quiet time feel like a gift. So you adjust. You decline more invites. You prefer early afternoons over late nights. You design a life that fits your body, not the other way around. Then there's a layer we haven't even mentioned yet: identity. As you age, your identity changes. You're no longer the parent of small children. You're no longer climbing the career ladder. You've retired. Or maybe you've shifted your lifestyle entirely. And with that identity shift comes a social shift. The people you once bonded with, fellow parents, co-workers, younger relatives, they may not feel as connected to you anymore. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because your lives no longer mirror each other. You're moving to different rhythms, and that's okay. You're not meant to hold on to every connection forever. In fact, letting go can be one of the healthiest things you do. Because what you make space for, those quiet mornings, the phone call from the one person who really gets you, the long walk without having to perform for anyone, that's the stuff your soul actually craves now. Less stimulation, more meaning. Less noise, more depth. It's not about rejecting people. It's about refining your circle. And that refinement can feel lonely at first, but eventually it becomes a kind of clarity. Some people will never understand this. They'll say, "You used to be so social." Or, "Why don't you come out anymore?" And you might struggle to answer, because how do you explain 1,000 quiet realizations? How do you summarize decades of growth in one polite sentence? The truth is, you don't owe an explanation. Not anymore. You've earned the right to disappear into your own peace without guilt. And here's something that might surprise you. This shift in behavior, this quieting of your social life, it can actually extend your life. Studies have shown that reducing stress and protecting your emotional health are key factors in longevity. When you avoid toxic conversations, when you limit overwhelming environments, when you choose serenity over obligation, you're not withdrawing. You're healing. You're preserving energy for what matters. And your body knows it. That's why so many elders seem calmer. They've stopped trying to impress anyone, stopped trying to fix what can't be fixed. They walk slower, but their minds are clearer. They talk less, but when they speak, it matters. They're not running from people. They're running toward themselves, toward the version of themselves they were too busy to meet before. There's a quote you've probably heard. As I grow older, I pay less attention to what people say. I just watch what they do. That's what aging does. It teaches you to observe more and react less. You no longer need to prove anything. You no longer chase the approval of people who never understood you. You start choosing peace over pride, solitude over forced connection, truth over tradition, and it feels good. Now, here's the beautiful irony. When you stop needing people around you all the time, the right ones start showing up. You stop begging for connection, and you start attracting it naturally. You no longer force conversations. They just happen. You don't schedule companionship. It finds you. And those few people who remain, they become priceless because they love the quiet version of you. The real version. Not the one who showed up to every event, but the one who shows up fully when it matters. So, if you're finding yourself more withdrawn lately, more selective, more quiet, don't panic. Don't second-guess it. Don't let the world tell you something's wrong. You're not broken. You're blooming. You're peeling away everything that doesn't serve you. You're not becoming less social. You're becoming more you. And that's a kind of joy that can't be faked. Maybe your calendar's empty this weekend. Maybe the phone hasn't rung in a few days. Maybe you spent your afternoon doing absolutely nothing with a peaceful heart. That's not loneliness. That's arrival. That's what it feels like when your life starts fitting just right. And if this message felt like it understood you better than most people do lately, then don't let it be the last time we talk. Subscribe to the channel. We're building a quiet little corner here just for folks like you. No noise, no pressure, just real talk, soul-deep stories, and the peace you've earned.